Okay, believe it or not, I just recorded the first episode of the podcast a couple days ago, and I just realized that my microphone was not recording the whole time. The audio was not on my mic, so that's why I was having so many issues with it, because it was not recording the proper audio the entire time. Just want to mention we are still having a few mic issues, but it is a lot better than last week's episode, and I know next week's episode will be a lot better too. So bear with me one more time because there are little pops and stuff, but after this, I promise I will have it all sorted. But we are back with episode 2. We got it working. So welcome everyone to Babbling with Brooke. I think we finally finalized the name, which I'm really excited for. I kind of love the name. There was a part of me that kind of wanted to name all my social medias and my YouTube channel and all that Babbling with Brooke in the first place. Like, I think that would have been so fun and so cool, but we ended up going with part of Brooke's World. But that's besides the point. We are here now, Babbling with Brooke, the podcast. I love it. I'm so excited. We're at episode 2 now, which means we are actually getting into it. We are getting into the real content. One of the things we're going to be talking about today is solo travel. And by one of the things, I mean that is what we're talking about today. That is the main purpose of this episode. And I am beyond excited to give it to you all. If you are watching on YouTube, reminder that you can also listen to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all your favorite platforms. And if you are on one of your favorite platforms, you can also watch this on YouTube. It goes back and forth. My name is Brooke. If you are new here, hi, hello, welcome. This is my podcast, but I did start out as a social media, I don't like to call myself an influencer because I feel like I don't have that big of a following, so I call myself a content creator, and I post stuff all the time on Disney, lifestyle, all that kinds of stuff. Today we are going to be talking about being solo in Disney World, which if you know me, you know this is like one of my favorite things in the world. I love going to Disney World solo. I love having solo days in the parks. I just appreciate Disney World at a whole nother level when I am there solo. Also, we are drinking bubbly today. Get a little ASMR in there. We have lime bubbly is my favorite flavor, and I have it in my little college tumbler mug. So today, traveling solo to Disney World, I want to get a little bit into my personal experience traveling solo to Disney World, what my trips are like, what I loved about them, what I didn't love about them, why I keep going back solo, all that kinds of stuff. And then we're going to talk about why you should do it, what are the amazing things about going solo, just different tips and tricks that I have. And then I also want to talk about a lot of people's concerns when traveling solo, bust those concerns or maybe validate them in a sense as well, and just talk about in general the big thing people ask, and they're like, is it weird to go solo? So just kind of overview of everything solo. I did do a video last year on my YouTube channel going in depth with every kind of step of the process. I do want this to be a little different than that, since I know a lot of people have already watched that video and have asked me to expand on it. So this is me expanding on it / also introducing some of the new concepts, so you don't have to have watched that video to know any about this or whatever, but you don't have to have watched that video before to be able to listen to this podcast, not by any means, but I will link that video down in the show notes if you decide you want to check that out as well next time you're on YouTube. So let's get right on into it. My Disney experience solo first started on my college programs when I would do solo days in the parks. These, of course, were not solo vacations, but every once in a while I would do a solo day in the parks by myself when none of my friends were available. This really soon turned into my first solo trip, which happened in August of 2021. This was my first Disney trip coming back after the pandemic, which made me so excited. So I planned it all myself. I booked my flights, my hotels. I, at the time, still had my annual pass, so I had the park tickets and all that down pat. And I decided to go in August 2021, right before I started school back up. I stayed at Disney's Pop Century Resort, and I was there for a week, maybe a week and a day, I believe. I'm not 100% sure the exact timeline, but it was that last week of August, you know? So I was there the last week of August into September. I got to see all the Halloween decorations decorations, and that trip was so many things for me on just like a personal level. First off, it was my first time really getting out since COVID had hit, which was a really, really big deal for me. It was my first time going to Florida since COVID had hit, so my first time in about a year and a half, because I did go in March 2020, right before the pandemic kind of took off, and right before, like 2 weeks before the parks closed, I think I was there, maybe a week before the parks closed. I'm not 100% sure, I don't fully remember. But yeah, I went in August 2021, and I had the time of my life. And but that being said, I did also have some really difficult moments. So to be fully transparent, at the time I was really, really suffering with my mental health, and being cooped up for so long. Social anxiety was something that I was really, really suffering from, and just being out from public, I had become a huge, huge homebody. I always have been, but this was even more dramatic when I was just coming out of the pandemic, and going to Disney solo was something huge, but also something really, really terrifying, just because of my anxiety that I did have. So everything did go really smoothly in general. I, got on the plane, no problem. I got to Disney World. I was struggling a little bit with staying in the parks for long periods of time, just because I would feel very jittery, very not myself sometimes. I was getting overstimulated, I guess would be the best way to put it. But once again, that's kind of besides the point, not a thing that a lot of people are going to deal with when they are in Disney World. But the actual solo part, what I really enjoyed about that trip, because I was suffering so much in mental health ways, was that I could do what I want when I wanted. I didn't find that I was forcing myself to do anything like I would if I was with other people. That would have resulted in me, having some sort of anxiety attack or something like that. I didn't feel like I had to push myself. If I needed to go back to the hotel and rest, I could do that. If I needed to just sit down for a couple minutes, I could do that without feeling guilty that I was kind of dragging anyone else down with me. I could eat at the places I wanted and fill myself with the food I needed to fill myself with, because I knew at the time my appetite was kind of also all over the place because of that anxiety. So being able to eat certain foods or not eat others, like that was really, really important to me. And overall, I just really loved the experience because it taught me a little bit about myself. It let me kind of step out of my comfort zone in a lot of ways, which I really appreciated, especially coming out of the pandemic. And I just had a ton of fun going on the rides and just getting to experience everything again, take it at my own pace and take everything in, because like I said, this was my first time back. From here on, I went on a couple more trips in 2021 and 2022, but they were with other people. And then June 2022, I don't know if it really counts as a solo trip per se, but I did do a solo night at Disney's French Quarter Resort before I went to the hotel, before I checked into Flamingo Crossings for my Disney College program over the summer. So I did one solo night at French Quarter, and then I did one solo night at the end of my college program at Coronado Springs in Destino Tower. However, I feel like that wasn't even a full experience because I checked in at 3 p.m. the normal check-in time. I went to Hollywood Studios with one of my friends, and then I got back, I went straight to bed, and I woke up at like 3 a.m. to go to the airport. So I don't even know if that counts as like a vacation or just like a stopover hotel. Low-key, I wish I had just booked like an all-star or something for that, because like I was never in the room or at the hotel basically, which kind of sucked. I wish I had a chance to experience that more, because I did have a really, really nice room and the resort's super nice. And I had stayed at Coronado Springs before, just never in Destino Tower. So I think that is still on my list to experience once again. Either way, I did those solo nights in a hotel, and I've really become more comfortable staying solo nights in hotels. That was something I was really nervous for before I had done it for the first time, but now I kind of almost prefer it, and we'll get into that, more into the why you should do it section. I do have my little notes written out here that I keep looking at. And then of course, on my Disney College program, once again, I did solo days again. So I kind of made an effort to do solo days because I enjoyed them so much. One of my favorite solo days that I did on my Disney College program was I did a solo resort hopping day, which is also on a YouTube video if you want to check that out. I did my followers choose my day resort hopping, which was so much fun, and I got to see so many different things at the Disney resort hotels, and I just truly had a blast. I also really had a blast doing food and wine in Epcot Epcot solo a couple times, and solo Disney vacations, highly, highly underrated. So from here, in September 2022, literally like a week after I got back from my college program, I left on another trip, which, yes, was crazy. I will fully admit, I know that was crazy. And I did a double stay. So I did Disney's Saratoga Springs Resort and Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge Resort. I rented Vacation Club points for that, which I do want to get into all about how you rent them and the benefits of renting them and the downsides and all of that in a different podcast coming out soon. But in September 2022, I did those solo days, or that solo trip. I did only spend one actual day alone because I did have other friends that were in town. To be completely transparent, I was seeing a guy at the same time, so I had gone out with him a little bit, but whenever I was in the room, I was alone, and whenever, like, I spent time at the pool, I went out for meals by myself, all that kind of stuff. So I did a lot of solo stuff on that trip, and I do consider that a solo trip because I was, flying in by myself, spending some time in the park alone, and then also a bit of time with friends as well. So we then move on to November 2022, and this is the same kind of thing. This was my most recent Disney trip and also my most recent kind of solo trip. So same sort of thing with this. I spent a lot of time solo, and how many nights was I there? Was I there for 5 or 6 nights? Anyway, my friend Ariane came down, or she was already down there, but she works most of the week, obviously, because she has a full-time remote job, so she works. So she came to visit with me 2 nights, and then the nights after she was done work, I spent time with her. So during the days, in the mornings, all that stuff, I was alone, and then in the nights and those 2 weekend days, I was with her. So for the most part, I was still doing Disney solo. I was sleeping in the hotel room myself solo. I traveled down there solo, and I was doing mostly park days solo. So I do have a lot of experience being solo in Disney World, and honestly, it's just a ton of fun being there solo. So moving on to why the heck you should do it. Why should you go solo? And I think the number one reason I like going solo is because I am generally a people pleaser. Like, if someone suggests they want to do something, I'll just be like, yeah, sure, fine, like let's go do it. If someone says, I really want to eat at, I don't know, Woody's Lunchbox, I'll be like, yeah, let's do that. So I'm very much kind of a pushover in that way. Like, if someone wants to go to a ride, I'll say, let's go do your ride over let's go do my ride. I very rarely put my foot down and I'm like, we need to go do this, just because that's not the type of person I am in the sense. So why should we go? Because you don't need permission to do anything. You can change your plans, you can schedule your day, you can do what you want to do, and there's no one else that you need to make happy, which I think is a huge thing for me. It's one of the reasons I love it so much, because I just do what I want to do, and I don't feel guilty or feel bad that I'm forcing anyone to do something that they don't want to do. And I know I shouldn't feel that way when I'm with people, especially with my friends. Like, it's totally within my right to be like, I want to do something, especially when we're on like a vacation with them. Like, we need to equally decide what we're doing, and for the most part we do. Like, it's not like I let them choose and do everything. I do put suggestions in there and such, but if they have a definite plan they want to do, I'll let them do it. So you can do the exact things that you want to do, and you don't have to do the things that you don't want to do. And that is the biggest reason for going solo. You get to be selfish. You get to make your own times. So I personally love to go for rope drop. If you know me, you know I am a rope drop girly. I love my rope drop. I love to be there before the park opens. And by before the park opens, I mean, like, I like to be the first person there. I've done it multiple times. You get on that first bus in the morning that leaves like an hour and a half before the parks open. You get to security first. I have been the first person in the parks. You line up at the turnstiles, you get your finger scanner ready to go, and you speed walk to whatever ride you're trying to get on. In the past, I've done Flight of Passage, definitely first in line. I've also done, another reason I really like to do it is for Starbucks in Magic Kingdom. Yes, I'm serious. You get up right at rope drop, and then you can be the first one at Starbucks, and you don't have to wait in line, and then you can have your Starbucks, and you can walk in and take in everything on Main Street as other people are waiting there for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train in the line that doesn't really exist. You're just like living your best life, walking around Main Street, looking at all the windows, holding your coffee, maybe taking some photos. Let me tell you, it's the dream come true, being one of the first people in Magic Kingdom. Also, the views are amazing. You can take some really cool photos without anyone there. but castle photos, no one in the background, and you don't have to pay extra. Like, that's huge. For me anyway, as someone who loves her Instagram photos. But there's so many reasons, just the relaxing atmosphere. Epcot, first in line. If you want to go, I have an Epcot plan in my head that has worked flawlessly. So let me tell you how to get on every ride in Future World. It's not called that anymore, but I don't actually know what it's called off the top of my head, so we're just going to call it Future World, without having to wait, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to enter the parks. You're going to go straight to Soarin'. You're going to ride Soarin'. You're going to ride Figment, Living with the Land, Nemo, in any order of your choice. You're going to head over, do single rider line for Test Track, and then if you got a Guardians boarding group right first thing in the morning, your Guardians boarding group should now be called and be ready for you to go in. And now within the first 2 hours of the park opening, you've done all the rides, I believe that is, in Future World. It is a flawless, wonderful plan, and I use it all the time. And rope dropping, it's amazing. Especially if you are a solo traveler, you can just get in, get on those rides, have the time of your life, and enjoy yourself. And then by the time 11 o'clock rolls around, you are ready, set, go for World Showcase, which I adore. And it is truly my favorite way to do Epcot. One of my favorite things, or ways to do Disney parks in general, is challenge myself to see how many rides I can get on in a day. And I love it. I love doing Epcot this way. But you can decide what rides you want to do and what rides you want to eat. You can decide how late you want to stay up. You can decide if you go for a mid-afternoon nap, also highly recommended by me. For eating, you can decide what kind of food you want to eat. You don't have to plan anything in advance either. If you want to just kind of go with the flow, you can do that. And another point is you also learn a lot about yourself and gain independence. So being alone really allows you to step out of your comfort zone and really forces you to step out of your comfort zone in the best way possible. As someone who, I know I talk a lot on the internet, but realistically, I am a lot more of an introverted person in most cases in life. I do have social anxiety in some cases, and it's really difficult. So stepping out of my comfort zone, just talking to people, talking to random strangers in line is really big for me, and just discovering more about yourself in general, putting more trust in yourself. I find after these solo trips, I have a lot more self-confidence just because I know I can do these things, and it really has given me the ability, even at home now too, to be able to do things alone and be okay with it. I don't need someone else to go do something, which is really important because I live alone here. I have friends, of course, that can always do stuff with me, but I don't have a boyfriend, so we're not going out all the time, and my parents, who I normally do stuff with all the time at home, are not here. So it just gives me a lot more freedom to be able to be confident in myself. It gave me a lot of freedom to be able to even move in by myself, knowing that I have spent the night alone in a room before. Obviously I spent the night alone in a room, but alone in a place, a full apartment, house, hotel room, all that. No one else is around to hear me scream. You know what I mean? That's always a little bit of the concern, but you kind of get a lot more confidence in yourself knowing that you can kind of get over it. And then you also just get, I don't even know how to describe it, truly. You just feel so much better about yourself when you come back. And there's no real way to verbalize that unless you've done it. You just know, you feel relaxed, you feel confident in who you are, and sometimes you even figure out life problems when you're alone. There's no time except when you're standing in line for Thunder Mountain to debate life's biggest problems. Getting out into a new atmosphere might give you some clarity on a life situation that maybe you've been struggling with. There are so many different things that being alone can do for you, especially if you're just having a relaxing day at the pool or something, or if you're like me and kind of getting out into the public is a little bit of a struggle for you. Stepping out of your comfort zone can be really, really big, and not having other people around, in my case anyway, tends to help me do that more. On the more obvious front, you can also partake in single rider lines. This is very useful. Let me tell you, Test Track, what else? Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run has single rider, Everest has single rider, and everyone in these lines is already like being split up, so you don't really need to worry. The ride wait times are going to be so much shorter, let me tell you. The number of times when I did work on Smuggler's Run, our wait time would be like 2 hours long, and there would not be a single person in the single rider line. I'm not saying you're going to have no wait times all the time, but the amount of shorter wait times you will have is significant. Multiple times I've walked up on Test Track with this huge lineup in the queue. You walk into single rider and you're good to go. Just side note too, in Test Track, my anxiety does get really, really bad before they cram you all into that room for the like pre-show when you're like building your car. Before that, you like all line up on these circles, and I hate that so much. Like it is one of the worst things ever. So I really prefer single rider. When you are on Guardians, obviously this is not confirmed, but I have a theory it's actually easier to get a Guardians boarding group when you're a single rider. I don't know for sure, but I mean, there's a good chance that they'll have one spot open versus like 10 in a boarding group area, so you might get on sooner potentially. Basically, there are a ton of options for single riders, and even when you're standing in line for like Space Mountain, for example, and they're like, okay, we need a party at 2, we need a party at whatever, parties at 1 will usually get called so fast. So I've skipped like huge portions of lines in like Space Mountain and that before because you need a party of 1. So I've just been able to get on that way. You also tend to get around the parks a lot faster, which for me, it means you get on more rides. It means you get to do more things. And a lot of this is just because you are that one person, so you're making your decisions. You don't have to sit and debate things. It's probably going to take you a little bit less time to eat meals, for example, so you're not waiting for the rest of your family to finish as well. You get to make the decisions, and there's no debating them. There's not stopping for as many bathroom breaks is another one. You're not stopping for as many food breaks probably in general, unless it's your mission to try all the snacks, but once again, that's like your call. You're not having anyone, complain, and you need to like get this out for them out of the backpack, or do this or do that or whatever. You just kind of do what you got to do, and I find you get around the parks a lot faster that way, especially if you have kids. Everyone who has kids goes around the parks so slow, let me tell you. But if you are going around the parks solo, you are going to get on all the rides and get to see so many different things, so many more things than if you are with a family or a larger group. Also bringing in the cost factor. In some cases, it is going to be more expensive to be a solo traveler, like the hotel, for example. If you and one other person are splitting the cost of the hotel, obviously that is going to be less money than just you paying the full cost for the hotel room. But if you are talking like in a family scenario, you're going to actually save money because you're still paying that cost for the hotel room, but you're only buying Lightning Lane for one person, for example, if you're going to do that. You're only, buying a tour if you want to buy a tour for one person. And suddenly the trip becomes a lot more affordable if you're just buying it for you versus buying it for a large group of people potentially. So if you want to go with, let's say you're an older adult and you want to go without your teenage kids who don't want to go to Disney, go do it. You know what I mean? Like, that's going to be so much cheaper for you than forcing them to come along with you. I do not obviously have a family, so I've only ever had to worry about solo costs for myself. So this is kind of an irrelevant one for me, which is why I don't really have a lot of points on it, because either way I'm only paying for one person. But if you are paying for more than one person normally on a vacation, this could be huge in saving money too. One of my favorite things is the space in a hotel room. Hotel rooms can be very cramped. You could have issues sleeping at night if someone in your family or one of your friends snores, potentially. I am not a person who likes sleeping near other people, like not even just like in the same bed. I'm like, if the bed is like near the other bed, I'm still like weird about the proximity thing. It's just not something I'm used to. I'm used to having like my own space when I sleep. So being solo in the hotel room, I just get a better night's sleep in general. I fall asleep faster because I can make the room to my liking, whether that be temperature, having the TV on in like a sleep mode so I fall asleep to that, putting a little music on, or just it being like straight silence if I want to. Either way, I get a better sleep, and I get to also control when I go to bed and when I wake up. As for dining, you also have the opportunity to sit at the bar or the lounge. So if dining in a sit-down restaurant maybe isn't your thing, if you're going solo, I'm still nervous to do this, and I know I shouldn't be, but it is something I am still a little nervous about. If it's something you're nervous about too, maybe try eating at the lounge or the bar of a restaurant. So some restaurants have like a bar area that has a full service menu that goes along with it, so you can just sit at the bar and have a full meal, talk to the bartender, just people watch what's going on. If you do want to do like a sit down thing, you could also request maybe a table near the window so you can look out the window in that while you're eating. Obviously, of course, these are subject to availability. It's not going to be guaranteed, but definitely an option. You can make conversation with your waiters, waitress, whoever is around you too. Another cool thing that I personally like about sitting at the bar in that is that there's a good chance you're going to have better walk-up availability. So if you don't want to book that reservation in advance and just kind of want to walk up and see what's there, the bar or the lounges don't take reservations in general. So unless it's Oga's, that Oga's is like the only exception to that rule. So you can just walk up and see what they have, and you may be able to get into a really hard to get into restaurant just because you're only one person and they have a seat left at the bar. So that's also a really good tip if you are trying to get in to eat in somewhere and you're just, one solo person. Why not splurge on a little bit of a more fun, expensive meal? See if they can get you in, see if they can get you in, seat you somewhere. Or if you're just interested in trying like a nicer meal at Disney, seeing which places have bars just for that more comfortable atmosphere. But of course, you should never feel embarrassed about dining alone too. If you want to do that, please do not let this stop you. Like, please go dine alone if you want to do that. Like I just said, it's just not something I'm fully comfortable with yet, but like I am trying to work my way up to that, and hopefully one day I can do that. Another really cool thing about doing Disney solo is Epcot festivals. Epcot festivals solo are my favorite thing in the world. I love doing Epcot festivals solo. Oh my gosh, I love it. You get to take in World Showcase at whatever pace you want to. And World Showcase is one of those things where some people like to zoom through it, some people like to take forever, and you can take it at your pace. You can read the things, like the plaques on the wall you want to read, you can talk to the cast members you want to talk to, and I truly believe in talking to the cast members at World Showcase. You can learn so much about the world now that the cultural representatives are back in there, so if you have a chance to do that, please talk to the cast members. You can check out the merch shop. You can check out the merch shops. You can check out the merch. I just said merchandise shops. You can check out the rides if you want to do the rides. So maybe you want to do the 3 Caballeros. Hey, it's me. I like to do the 3 Caballeros, and no one else I know does. What is wrong with the 3 Caballeros? I don't know, but people really like to skip over that one, and I'm like, I really love this ride. Maybe you don't want to wait in line. Maybe you don't want to wait in line a long time for Frozen, and other people, maybe you're with kids who would die to wait in line for Frozen. If you want to do character meet and greets, you can do that. If you want to eat at certain food booths, you can do that. Epcot festivals have so many hidden things around the corner. I love doing the Epcot festival scavenger hunts because they're a very independent activity. You can just walk around, do it at your own pace, discover all the things, learn stuff about Epcot, and also partake in the festival. And it's a really amazing solo activity I just absolutely adore. So now getting into a little more about the concerns that you may have as a solo traveler. And the biggest one that people say to me personally when I say I travel solo, or they're wondering about traveling solo, is it weird? Do people look at you funny? Do people say things? Like, is it weird? And I'm not going to lie and say that never happens, because I've definitely heard stories of it happening. It's only ever happened one time to me, and I go solo all the time. And I would never let that deter you, because it's not very common, first off, but going solo is actually very common. Being told off for it is not, but going solo itself is very common. Cast members especially go solo all the time on their days off, or on the nights. Florida locals go by themselves all the time, and solo trips are also becoming more and more popular. I've ran into many solo travelers on my solo vacations as well. So there's always tons of people that are going solo. Cast members never or rarely think it's weird. If they do think it's weird, it's because they're a new cast member and just haven't experienced it a lot yet. But cast members see solo people there all the time, and a lot of times the cast members you're running into go solo themselves. So it's really nothing to worry about in that sense. No one's ever going to think you're like super weird for it or anything. And then also you have to consider, like, who cares? If someone does think you're weird for it, why does it matter, you know? Chances are you have no idea who this person is and you are never going to see them again. So why does it matter what they think of you? And I know this is easier said than done. If someone does say something or comments, like, you might start having the feeling that you're doing something wrong or become self-conscious, but in reality, you have to consider that this person is the weird one for concerning themselves with your life. Why does it matter? Who cares? Why does it matter so much to this random person who doesn't know you that you're doing something solo, that you're doing something that does not affect their life in any way, shape, or form? Why does it matter? And I think that's the big one a lot of people forget, is that they're never going to see this person again, and if this person does do or say something weird, that's on them. That's not on you. If they have a weird feeling with it, it's probably because they are self-conscious and couldn't do it themselves, and they're jealous that you can do it and they can't. It means that they probably have some sort of deep-rooted issue with being alone or being independent, honestly. So just go and be solo and do it, because there's really no reason to stop you, and the people who judge you are the people who, like, they just got problems, okay? If people judge you for something that is completely not hurting anyone and makes you happy, like, that's on them, you know? So with that, though, there may be some criticism that people in the past have also asked me about criticism from their own family or friends, and these people's opinions do mean a little bit to you, honestly, and a lot of times it's these opinions that probably affect you the most or are deterring you from going, because you don't want to tell your family or friends that you're going solo, simply because A, they're going to judge you for it potentially, or B, they're going to want to come and be offended that you're going solo. So first off, I want to ask why you need someone else's permission to do anything. If you are a fully grown adult who can financially go on one of these trips, there should be nothing stopping you except maybe getting those days off of work. So you do not need anyone else's permission to justify your actions in life that are not hurting anyone else's life, you know? Like, as long as it's not negatively impacting someone else's life, you are able to do whatever you want to do. And if someone or one of your family members does think it's weird, let them, because these family members are probably the people who also think going to Disney World year after year after year is weird. Disney travelers in general tend to understand the concept that solo travel is a lot of fun, or wish they could do a solo Disney vacation themselves. So people who generally like Disney are not going to be much of a problem when it comes to saying, I'm going solo. The only problem you might encounter is them wanting to come with you, which we'll cover in a second. But the people in your family who are like, why would you go alone? Why do people go tour and backpack across Europe alone? Like, it's not weird to do things alone. It really isn't. And not like I'm comparing a Disney vacation to backpacking across Europe, because trust me, those fall in very, very different realms. But to judge you for traveling solo to Disney alone when they probably wouldn't judge you for traveling anywhere else alone is a little weird on their end. And once again, like I said, these are probably the people that are criticizing you for going to Disney time and time again anyways. So just keep ignoring their opinion, because honestly, it's not worth stressing over at all. As for friends and family who want to go with you, your best bet is just going to be explaining the situation to them and why you want to go alone. Encourage them to book their own solo vacation too. Maybe if you're both nervous about going alone for the first time and you want to do solo vacations, maybe you can split a hotel together and then just kind of go your separate ways each day, and then maybe meet up for dinner every night. That is totally up to you and up to your discretion. If you are really concerned about a solo vacation and them wanting to come with you and maybe hurting their feelings when you don't invite them with you, sit down and have a conversation with them about it and let them understand that this isn't something that you're doing against them. You're just doing it because you need to do it for yourself. And true friends and people that care about you are 100% going to understand that. They may be jealous, but like I said, encourage them to go on their own vacation as well. Now for safety, and this is something I think a lot of female travelers specifically are concerned about, because safety for female travelers everywhere. Female travelers always have something to worry about. Not that male travelers don't. Trust me, there are definitely male travelers who also have safety concerns and have had stuff happen to them all over the world, don't get me wrong, but coming as a female solo traveler, it can be really scary sometimes, and you do need to take extra precautions that you would not need to take if you were a male traveler. Same if you are transgender, anything like that. You may also want to take extra precautions, just because there are people out there who unfortunately do target those individuals. So number one tip for safety in Disney World is to use common sense. Just because you are in the most magical place on earth does not mean things don't happen. Do things happen? Not a lot. It is a generally safe area, but they can happen. And unfortunately, I have seen things happen. I have seen things happen to others. So I just want to say use common sense, because that is going to be your best friend. I don't want to say these things to scare you, but I do want to say these things to give you a realistic opinion on what to expect. I recommend never getting in a Lyft or Uber unless you absolutely have to. This is Orlando rules in general. If you do not have to get in a Lyft or Uber alone, do not do it. And if you do it, share your location with someone. Could be someone in Orlando preferably, but someone from home will work too. Let them know who your driver is when you get in and when you get out. This being said, make sure you are sharing your location only with people who need to have your location. I always have my Snapchat maps turned off, because frankly, people don't need to know where I am. And I just find it easier for this. However, I have find my friends on so that my close friends, who maybe should be aware of my location in case something happens, know where I am at all times. So find that delicate balance and do not share your location with everyone. Stay on property. Like I said, avoid those Ubers and Lyfts. If you are staying on Disney property, you'll know that there's always someone around and nearby, whether that be a cast member at the resort hotel, a bus driver, someone in the theme parks, or just like you're surrounded by crowds of people. So you're always going to be around people, so chances of something happening are a lot slimmer. And if something does happen, there's going to be help nearby who kind of knows what to do next and will help you if needed. Also, going back to stay in touch with family. When I'm there, I'm texting my parents all the time. Sometimes I'm FaceTiming them at night. I'm texting my friends about what's going on. I'm Snapchatting people pictures. Just keep in touch with someone. And that way, if something does happen and suddenly you're not in touch with them anymore, people will kind of know, hey, something's not right here, and try to get a hold of you in that sense. I also like to give my parents the flight numbers and all that information, what hotel I'm staying at, a phone number to reach the hotel if need be, and then also, of course, my general information. However, they always have that anyway, but you know what I mean. I like to give them a copy of everything on my itinerary, so they know when to expect me back and where I should be and when I should be doing what. At Disney, you can make room requests. Also, you can make a request for a room in a well-lit area, which I personally love, because that means I am just in more of a lighted area. I'm not walking through a dark forested area to get back to my room after the park closes at 11 p.m. Makes me more comfortable when there are lights around. You can also pay the extra you want if it makes you more comfortable to be in a preferred room. This is a room that's going to be close to the main lobby of a building, which means that it's going to be busier around. The noise levels might be higher at night, yes, but you're going to be closer to everything. So once again, you're staying in those groups and crowds of people. You're never going to be alone walking through the darker area of the resort. And those areas do exist, especially when you start talking the moderate resorts. So thinking like Coronado Springs is one where there's a lot of different little hallways and pathways and all that through the resort. Port Orleans Riverside, not saying that there's any increased chance of anything happening at these resorts, but it is a possibility. Saratoga Springs or the campground especially are other ones where they're just really, really big resorts, and they have a lot of trees covering them and forested areas and stuff. So just for my sake, I prefer to be in somewhere that I can see what's going on around me, it's well lit, and there are other people around. Pop Century is probably one of my favorites to go solo to, and then I also really did enjoy Animal Kingdom Lodge solo. Saratoga Springs, I know I just said it was a bad one, but it's also a really good one in my opinion too. I just maybe wouldn't do like the treehouse villa kind of side of it, and I probably would get a preferred room in that case if I did go back solo again. Not that I didn't feel safe. I felt safe the whole time I was there. Do not get me wrong. And I have felt safe 100% of the time I have been in a Disney World resort at a Disney World resort hotel. I'm just saying, you never know, right? And different people are going to have different comfort levels on these types of things. Use group transportation. So I already said don't Lyft or Uber, but you have to get to Walt Disney World somehow. So group transportation is a great option. Mirrors, Sunshine Flyer, all big bus services that take you to your resort hotel. They are trusted services. They're going to get you where you need to go. And there's other people on the bus. So it's not just going to be you and a stranger driving you to your location. They're going to be a really safe option for you. Yes, it might take a little longer, but overall it's going to be, in my opinion, a little bit better of an option for a solo traveler, especially because then you're only paying $36 round trip versus the Uber there and back, which is going to be probably $50 to $100 each way. And then finally, safety tip, don't advertise that you're solo. I've seen people do I'm celebrating for solo trip buttons and such. Please don't do that, or if you do that, do not wear it around the parks. The last thing you want to do if you're worried about your safety is advertise that you are alone. Even when people ask me if I am alone in the parks, which sometimes happens, just casual conversation when you're talking to people, they're not like trying to pry into my life or whatever, but I always mention that, oh, I have a family member who wasn't feeling too good who's staying back at the hotel or something like that. I don't care who it is, I don't care how much you trust this person, but you never know who is going to be listening in on a conversation. You don't, unfortunately. So someone just simply walking past could overhear that you're traveling solo and not have the best intentions. So just be aware of your surroundings, use common sense. Honestly, I recommend, if you are really concerned about safety, looking up safety tips for travelers, just in general, because a lot of those are going to apply in Disney as well as everywhere else. And then I do want to mention on top of that, you can get those locks on Amazon that like secure your hotel room door. They do not fit on Disney World doors. I will mention that. It actually makes your door not lock properly. So I have one of those. It's never worked for me. So I do not recommend getting one. I just recommend the deadbolt. And if you really don't feel safe, throw a chair in front of the door kind of deal. But those locks are actually not going to make your door lock properly in all the experiences that I have with them, which actually obviously puts you at more danger if your door is, unlocked all night. So then just some final general tips on a solo Disney vacation. Join Facebook groups. There are solo traveler Facebook groups, and these are a great option if you are nervous about traveling solo and you're looking to maybe meet up with someone for a meal while you're there. There's tons of people there who are looking for other people to meet up in the parks, whether it be they don't have anyone that wants to go to Disney World with them, but they don't want to do a solo day, so them and one other person are going to meet up and spend a park day together. Complete strangers, but you might make a new friend out of it, or maybe you just want to do a meal with some other people. For a while there, these groups were actually having weekly solo Disney meetups at some of the different restaurants. So they'd book or save like a big table at a lounge for like 10 people, and then whoever wanted to could show up. Once again, obviously, be safe. Don't give out your personal information in these groups. Don't give out your exact location. Use common sense as you would anywhere else. But if you are looking for someone, these are a really great way to meet someone new. Maybe meet up with them and go for a drink. Who knows? These are not dating groups. I will very specify. And there are also actually solo women, female traveler groups out there too, if you're interested in joining one of those for Disney as well. And then I will mention my final random tip, and that is ask other people for help. Get them to help you take photos. If you want someone to hold your spot in line while you go throw something in the trash real quick, I've asked people to do this, especially when you're waiting for the bus. I usually have like my coffee cup and I drink it all, and I don't want to sit there and hold it until we get to like Epcot or something. So I'll just be like, hey, do you mind if I just go throw this in the trash real quick and come right back? They're like, yeah, sure, no problem. And half the time that actually sparks conversation with whoever I'm standing beside, and we'll chat until the bus comes. So make conversation with people in line, ask people to help you out. Like, you're alone, you can't do everything yourself. Don't feel bad about it. Ask them to help take photos for you. I've done that a couple times. I also like to bring my own tripod for photos, so I guess that's another tip. You can get a small tripod if you want to take photos, and also if you want to vlog or something too, that's definitely an option to help document your experience and help you feel less alone. So I guess that was like 4 final tips in one or something. But anyway, traveling solo to Disney can be so much fun. I don't really know a poetic or cool way to end this, so I just want to say do it. I have had the time of my life doing solo Disney trips. I'm always looking to book my next one. I'm like, how can I go to Disney solo? If I can go to Disney solo, I will do it any time of day, all the time. Sometimes I plan solo days just for myself because I don't want to go with other people. And that's totally okay. You do not have to do Disney with people all the time. It is totally okay to go solo, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Seriously, this is your sign, if you're listening to this podcast and made it all the way through, to go book your solo Disney trip. Anyway, thank you so much for listening or for watching, whichever way you're doing it. I will be posting a new podcast every single Monday, so make sure you come back and check it out. And also, if you haven't already, follow my other socials at Part of Brooke's World. Thank you again so much for listening, and have a magical rest of your day.